And now,
Hire Away with Collins Harlan.
Welcome to Hire Away. Hire Away is a show where we talk about jobs, we talk about business, but we talk with the people that are operating those businesses and doing those jobs, people with skin in the game. And my name is Collins, staffing specialist with Labor Finders. We have offices all over the country. In St. Louis, we have one in North St. Louis and one in South County. If you are hiring, if you're looking for people, all you do is go to laborfinders.com. That's laborfinders.com. You find the branch nearest you, call us up, and we'll help you out. Okay, today on the show, we have Jake West. He's the Director of Marketing for Local 36, the sheet metal union. And it's going to be a fascinating interview because Jake and I kind of do the same thing. We find workers for people who need workers, but we do it with completely different platforms. So let's do this. Let's talk to Jake and find out how that works.
Hire Away.
Jake West, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. You're the Director of Marketing for Local 36.
Yep, that's correct.
That's fantastic. So that's a sheet metal union. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what do you think? Like when people hear sheet metal, when I hear sheet metal, I think of HVAC, and that's about all I think of.
Yeah.
What is sheet metal?
So, yeah, that's a good question because a lot of people don't understand kind of our role in the construction industry if they're not in it, right? Mm-hmm. So we do, HVAC is a big one. All your ductwork, furnaces, air conditioner, that's all made out of sheet metal. So we get into that quite a bit. That's probably 80% of our workload. But then we have all these other parts of our craft that involve sheet metal. So like exterior metal, you have like copper bay windows and, awnings above your windows, things like that. The roof of Lambert, if you haven't looked at up there.
The airport you're talking about?
Yeah, the Lambert Airport, the entire roof's made out of sheets of copper. And so that was work that, we got up there and put all that copper in. And then we do all these other specialty work like kitchen equipment, all that stainless steel you see, backsplashes in kitchens, stuff like that. And then a lot of industrial welding. So a lot of your powerhouses, car plants in the area, we go in and we build the systems, the ovens, and, paint drip trays, things like that. We'll go in and do that kind of work.
There's a lot more to it than HVAC.
There's a lot more to it. Yes.
Wow. So there's really no limit to what you guys do. It could be decorative metal work. It could be functional, like the windows, but also decorative. And you guys have skilled journeymen that do that kind of stuff. Yeah,
that's one of the reasons we have such a robust apprenticeship and training program is because it takes a lot to know all of these different types of skills. Mm-hmm. And so, how do you get someone there? You got to get them down to our training school, get them trained, teach them exactly how to do it, have them working alongside journeymen that have been doing it for years, and that's how you kind of keep developing all the workers that we have.
I was talking to kind of a client of ours. We do some direct hire for them. Vogel Heating and Cooling. You're familiar with them?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the gentleman there spoke very highly of you, actually. He knows you, and he said you're a really good guy. When you were a little kid, obviously you didn't want to be a sheet metal worker, right?
Right.
But what did you want to be when you were a little kid?
Yeah, I didn't know what a sheet metal worker was when I was a kid. But I always liked playing with Legos and, building things with blocks, tree houses, that kind of stuff. So I've always kind of wanted to do something along the construction building industry. When I was in high school, that was college, right? You had to go to college to be successful. So engineering seemed like a good fit. And then kind of realized that maybe that wasn't for me. And I started looking at other alternatives, and heating and cooling became something that really stuck out to me. So I started pursuing that, happened to get hired by a union contractor, and then the rest is history.
That's pretty interesting. When you say when you're in high school, it was college, I remember that. I don't know what age you are. I'm not going to ask you, and I'm not going to tell you how old I am. But when I was in high school, it was the same thing. You were expected to go to college. Mm-hmm. You go to college, you get a job, one or the other, right? And what I like about what's going on with the union, and I'm sure your union is very active, they're going into high schools now to try to let people know, kids, that are in the high schools, that the trades are a really good opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can make six figures and up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, some people think of construction and trades like, I'm just digging a ditch or hammering a nail. There's so much more to it.
Yeah. There's all kinds of jobs in the construction industry. And, that's one thing that as a director of marketing, I do a lot of job fairs and things like that, going into high schools and meeting kids and educating them on opportunities that they might not know are there. Now, to give a lot of credit to the counselors in the area, because they are really starting to push some of their kids that they could see being successful in this industry towards the trade. So they're reaching out to me, setting up tours of our training center, and just trying to make sure that they're aware of the options that are in front of them.
Thank goodness. Because do you remember that when we were kids, we used to have like an auto shop in school? Did you have that?
I didn't have an auto shop, no. I had shop classes. I had a metal and wood shop class. But
We
that's
had
all
wood shop and
Yeah.
we had automotive and probably electrical. We had that. But those programs they went away, you know, and it's really good to hear that, you know, the counselors and the schools are starting to push kids that are more mechanically inclined that could do really well in the right direction.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, how did you go? So what I really like about what you just said is I've had personal experiences at job fairs. There was a job fair in St. Peter's or St. Charles at the big,
The family arena.
yeah. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Were you
yep.
there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'll be darned. Yeah. What was cool about that, maybe you can talk about it a little bit. They had the unions were out there, union companies were out there, and they not only had booths, they brought the equipment, like big, heavy equipment.
Right.
And
They're letting them drive cranes. And, you know, it's insane. And for, you know, a kid that hasn't thought about that, getting able to sit in that seat and drive something around, you know, that can really open their eyes. And
It was incredible.
Yeah, our booth, if you notice them walking around with little metal toolboxes. So we brought, you know, hundreds of them, and kids could come up to our booth and they have to hammer them together. You know, they have little tabs on them, put them together, hammer the seams over, and then they get to take that home with them. So, you know, at the end of the day, they have something that they built in their hand, taking them home.
See, this is just, I mean, this is what we need in this country.
Yeah.
You know, there's such a shortage. And have you guys felt like the shortage of skilled labor? Like, has that affected you guys?
So it's interesting. We've been hiring quite a bit over the last couple of years, way more than our average has been over the last decade. You know, the last couple of years have been, you know, 2-3 times the amount of normal hires. But we've always had a large wait list in our union. Right now, we have over 400 people on the applicant wait list trying to get into the
That's
apprenticeship.
just the wait list.
That's just the wait list to get in. And we've been fortunate in that way. Not every union's had that luxury of having that you know, pipeline of applicants to pull from. So for, you know, our trade specifically, we're doing okay. I wouldn't say we're doing phenomenal, but we're managing. Whereas construction as a whole, there is a shortage, and we need a lot more people trying to get in.
But again, that main push from the unions in general to go into the high schools and develop talent, invite people in. It's got to catch up.
Yeah,
and help.
absolutely.
You know, but yeah, we've a lot of kids in our area. All they've ever done is played video games.
Right, yeah.
They think work is you go to a place and you help people fix their video game and you go home. You know, that's not going to pay much.
No, it won't. Yeah.
It won't lead to much. But so what with the union? What's the process? You obviously have clients and customers. You and I actually, our jobs are similar. Companies call, they need people. We find those people.
Yeah.
So basically, it's kind of the same thing. But what's your process? What is it like a day in the life of you at work when you're trying to help people find work?
Yeah. So kind of what the process looks like is when a contractor calls me, Jake, I need a new person. You know, that could be a residential heating and cooling company. So I'm looking at anyone that may have gone through like a tech school like Rankin or Jefferson College or, you know, any of the tech schools in the area that have trained for HVAC. I know they'll be a good fit at that company. So, you know, we'll look at our applicant list, try and find someone with that qualification, you know, that's, you know, up at the top of our list and send them to work. Whereas it could be a big, heavy industrial fabrication shop and they need someone with welding experience. So we're looking at other applicants that have that welding background. So our goal is to find the right applicant for the right contractor, because that's what leads to good retention, good success for those applicants.
And I imagine that it's all by doing that deepens the relationship. They see that you're helping them and you stick with them. And yeah. So what are some of the things we talked about some of the challenges, I guess. What's going on in the area? Like what big things are happening as far as what you guys do? And
so there's a lot of big jobs going on right now in the St. Louis metro, because we kind of supply the eastern half of Missouri, but most of our work's going to be in the St. Louis metro. And right now Boeing has a huge facility they're putting up for the new fighter jets that they're going to build.
They just got a new contract, right?
Yeah. So they're going to be, you know, ramping up on manpower to you know, put all the heating, cooling, ventilation, exterior metal all in that building. So we have a lot of members out there working. And then here in Jefferson County, we have the James Hardy plant. They're breaking ground right now, so we should have some guys out there relatively shortly working on that project. And then the big elephant in the room is data centers, right?
Oh, that's right. Boy, we talk a lot about data centers. Yeah.
So, what does that look like for the construction industry? It would be, game changing for us. We'd have hundreds of people on that job site for, 5, 6, 7 years, something like
for
that.
Long term.
Right.
Yeah.
And part of the conversation is these are short-term jobs and then it goes away. But, in my world, if you're on a job for 7 years, that could be someone's entire apprenticeship. So they get in, they work on this job, they learn our craft, and then get to the journeyman level, and then they've launched their career because of one investment in our area. So that's really hopeful for the future of our construction trades.
Yeah, I see the value. I see why you're excited, because it's an entry into the journeyman level. They can just work there, get all their hours in, all that experience, and their life is transformed.
Right.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it could be great for the community.
You seem like you really care about the people you place and the companies you help.
Yeah.
It's not true, is it?
Yeah. Does it look like that?
No, you really do. And you strike me as a pretty humble guy. What makes you good at what you do?
Well, I guess that's a good question, because good is hard to define. But I think like one of the big drivers for me is, like you said, you got to care about the people that you represent. So right now we got 1,400 members working here in St. Louis, and we got to make sure we're doing everything we can to represent them well, make sure that they're able to put food on their table, making a good living. And then, my job specifically is helping people find their way into the union. And so, when you see someone that's maybe got a minimum wage job and they find their way into the apprenticeship, and now they're making $26 an hour, that's our starting pay right now. And then they, graduate through the apprenticeship, getting raises along the way, and you see how their life can change over that, even a short couple of years.
Yeah.
It could really change with the health insurance and benefits that they can get for their family. It's awesome.
That's fantastic. So basically, you're compassionate. You have a lot of empathy. You're basically trying to help people.
Yeah.
Whether it be the client, but especially your union members.
Yeah. That's the core of union values is helping people.
It's kind of like the golden rule anyway. It should be the core of all values, in my opinion. But it's good that that's the case. We struggle, like in my staffing platform, not being union. We have times where we have a lot of business and times where it dips, times in between. So do you ever have those struggles where it's like, man, I've got some good workers, but I just don't have work for them right now?
Yeah.
Doesn't that suck?
It does, because you want them to work, and they're good workers, but you got to have the jobs there. And so, what do? We have a hiring call. So our business agents, kind of work through that and send the right people out to the right jobs. They go out based on qualifications. So hopefully no one's sitting for an extended period of time. They're kind of rolling through the list and keeping everyone working as much as they can. But, recessions really hurt construction. So back in 2008 to 2010, it was hard for all the construction industries.
I remember. It was horrible. It was awful. It was bad for everybody.
Yeah.
Not just, I would go into manufacturing, because we did a lot of manufacturing, and we actually work with some manufacturing plants that are union, but they just have certain contracts, like you can use them for 30 days. Then they have to join the union or they have to be replaced.
Okay. Yeah.
But anyway, that's beside the point. I digress. We would go in during that global recession, and they had like skilled machinists sweeping the floors just to keep them on the payroll, because they knew that, they're going to need them eventually. That was horrible. It was absolutely awful. What did you guys do for your people during that time? Were you able to help them out on any other level?
Yeah. So one of the benefits of being part of the union is when you have your journeyman card, that means you can go anywhere in the country and work. Nice. So, they went through the apprenticeship, they know they have the skills. And so when jobs popped up around the country, they're able to travel. And then the ones that didn't want to or couldn't, how do we help them out? So we had funds available to, help them get grocery cards to go to Schnucks and, at least buy some, bread and milk for their family to help get them by till they get back to work.
You actually helped them with groceries and things.
Yes. Yep. And I could say, that was the leadership at the time. That was, a couple of years before I even got into the trade. So, kudos to them for planning ahead, making sure they had the resources to do that. Well,
I've talked to a couple guys, and they all have good things to say about the sheet metal union, Local 36 here. And you mentioned that there were some funds available. What that tells me is your union is well run. very well run because, you had the foresight to be putting away a rainy day fund for some problems. And there's going to be problems in the future.
Oh yeah.
So I'd imagine
definitely.
that, so you take care of your people.
That's what we try and do every day.
That's
That's the basis of every decision we make.
So James Hardy, the new factory going in, what's the timeline on that?
Oh, I don't even know what the timeline is, to be honest with you. So I know that they have started clearing the ground. So they got the dozers prepping the site for the construction. The timeline of actually having steel come out of the ground, it's up in the air. I don't think I've been part of that conversation yet.
Well, what would you say? But if you had to guess, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5?
Yeah, probably within the next year or two, we're going to start, seeing that come out of the ground.
That's actually not bad.
Yep.
It's not bad at all. Excuse me. And then data centers.
Yeah. Everyone loves them, don't they?
Yeah. Apparently everybody keeps voting them out. You know?
Yeah.
But in fact, in St. Charles, they just had that,
The moratorium.
Yeah, the moratorium. Right. Yeah. But in Festus, am I correct about that?
Yep.
They just approved. I don't know if I don't know what's really going on.
Yeah. So right now, the Festus City Council, they have annexed the land for the proposed site. So now it's part of the city of Festus.
Okay.
And then they had a planning and zoning meeting where they decided to change the zoning of that land to light industrial. So now it's zoned for the possibility of having a data center.
Nice.
And so there were a lot of public hearings about that. And, as part of the labor community, I was one of the people that got up there and spoke in behalf of it, along with a lot of our other representatives, and had a lot of public backlash. And, it's around a lot of the community.
You're a brave man.
Well, yeah. So like the water, the light, the electric bills, like all of these are really big concerns. And, I think that doing some research, trying to address how to mitigate the risks and maximize the rewards of having a project like this, I think our elected officials are equipped to do that. And so now it's on them to see it through.
Well, hopefully they'll get it done. And boy, you talked about speaking up and representing. If you ever need extra people to do that, let me know.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So the data centers are one thing. And it seems to me that the pushback that Herculaneum, Festus, that whole area up there, the people are worried that all this new development is going to just make their lives miserable. They want to keep that bedroom community thing going, And I get that. I mean, I can kind of get that,
Sure.
If you want to live in the city, live in the city. If you want to live in the country, you come over here, But my thing is, if it's done right, so many businesses are going to pop up. What happens to their property value? It's going to go way up.
Yeah.
So, and maybe they're not concerned about that, but I know I would be, because I want to leave something to my kids, And so hopefully they'll get it done and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So let me see what else I have here for you here, because we talked about what's going on. What are some of your challenges? I don't think we talked about this before. I'm throwing you a curveball here.
Yeah.
Like, what are some of your challenges that you guys have?
Probably the biggest one we've kind of touched on is the ebb and flow of the construction industry. You're ramping up, you need a lot of manpower. It slows down.
Sure.
How do you get everyone working? So that's going to be, a problem forever, is managing that, because it's never going to be a nice, steady flow, because we represent over 80 contractors, right? And so some of them are going to be busy while other ones are slow, and managing that is always a something that we work on.
Deal with it on my side too.
Yeah. And then, politically, unions have kind of a bad rap historically, and it's caused us to have like a lot of challenges when it comes to like some of the legislation that's coming out.
Bad rap. What do you mean by that?
I don't think Jimmy Hoffa did a great job painting the picture of what unions really are about. So people watch movies like The Irishman and stuff like that, and that they think that we're all mobbed up, but that's really not the case.
Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah,
I shouldn't laugh. It's not funny, but it is kind of. Yeah. So I see what you mean. So there's like a stigma.
Sure.
That's what. Is it fair to say it's more of a stigma than a a political issue. It's just
I would say that's very accurate. So like the stigma around unions is, you got all these big bosses that are going around. It's
corruption and all that kind of
but
stuff,
our leadership, they're all voted in by our members, and so everyone came from, they were working next to them one day on the job site, and now they're a business rep, trying to go out and represent you. So overcoming the stigma of unions is tough because we're all different. Not every union's the same, but
that's interesting.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you have your construction unions, you have your public sector unions like teachers and firefighters, and everything in between. The printers union, and there's a million of them out there, and they're all run differently. They all have different structures. Then they all have different representation. And so you could have strong unions that are really good at representing their members, and you could have unions that maybe aren't as strong, especially if they're in right to work states where they don't have like the resources to do what they need to do.
What do you think about Starbucks unions?
Yeah,
I laugh.
It's interesting, right?
It's really I don't know what to think about that. How do you think about that?
I'm a supporter. Obviously, like you want to see people being able to advocate for themselves and try and make sure that they're getting a fair shake. And
sure.
The CEOs making billions of dollars. Right. Why can't the workers, get a little bit of that too? So
it's that collective bargaining approach.
Yeah,
and it's an attempt to bridge the gap between this outlandish money at the top and this little bit of coins at the bottom, and it's an attempt to bridge that. And so that makes sense. Collective bargaining.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're for it. I don't know what I think about it. I think, do you feel like then that I'm really putting you on the spot?
That's all right.
But just philosophically, do you feel like every company should be unionized?
I think the immediate answer is yes.
Okay.
Just because I think that the relationship between the employer and employee is a tough one, right? Because
Gotcha.
you have that power dynamic of I rely on you to feed my family.
Right.
But when you get a group of people together that can all advocate as a group, that can be great. It might not always be great, but it has the potential to help a lot of people. And
sure.
I would, I don't want to speak for our contractors, but I think a lot of them really see the benefit of having a unionized workforce because they get the training, they get, the workforce available to them. So like, it's not an us versus them, it's a partnership. We got to make sure that the company's making money so they stay in business and continue to have jobs for our workers. So it's got to work out for both the company and the workers. And how do you make it work for everybody?
Do you feel like that's part of the stigma too, that when people think of that dynamic, excuse me again, that they see the union as interfering, like an enemy to the company and a Robin Hood to the worker? Is that part of that stigma?
Yeah, we kind of saw that a lot with the Boeing strike, right? The public look at that is, are these guys being greedy or do they deserve raises? And they're comparing them with contracts that other Boeing facilities had around the country. But at the end of the day, you had 3,000 people that decided we're going to go without a paycheck for however long it takes to get a raise.
Skilled workers that Boeing needed. Yeah.
And then when you do the math, they probably lost out on more money, because those raises are great, but it's going to take them a while to, for those raises to compensate for the whatever 100 days or so they were on strike. That's a lot of lost wages, but they do that for the generation after them. They're fighting for good contracts, so the next generation of worker gets to enjoy them.
That's good to hear. It's that whole empathy thing and wanting to take care of your membership. And just because you're here now, someone else is going to fill your shoes later.
Yeah.
And so if you care, you fight for them too. Question. In the Boeing strike that, of course, ended, who won? What side won?
Workers, I would say, would be the quick one, but some of these questions have a complex answer.
Right.
The black and white, I would say the workers won because they were able to get a contract that the membership voted to approve. So the workers, by the end of all of the negotiations, the workers approved the contract. So they got something that they were comfortable living with.
And I'm really you're a good sport. And you said a while ago that it's not about just the workers; it's about the company. So if you're bridging the gap and trying to make that fit, the workers getting what they want, and the company being able to not go out of business doing that. Do you feel like Boeing was able to get something out of the deal too?
I would say so. I think one of the the draws of the labor industry is your wages, right?
Yeah.
So if their workers are making more money, that's a more attractive job. So they're going to have more people applying. They're going to have a better talent pool. And so, I've always been an advocate of, if you want the best workers, you got to pay them. And so, as their wages go up, they should be able to attract the best of the best here in St. Louis to come work for them.
So it almost strikes me as, because that's I don't want to say capitalism. It is capitalism, but that's the competitive market doing its work. And so it sounds to me like if the union is in line with the market and everybody's playing well, that a lot of progress can be made, not just for this generation, but the one after that and the one after that.
Yep.
And that's kind of your role, or your union's role.
Yeah.
I guess.
The labor movement's, been going on for hundreds of years.
Right.
It'll keep going long after I'm gone.
The more I learn about the union and talk to people like you, the more I'm a fan. I grew up in a family. My dad wasn't a union worker, but my grandpa worked for Granite City Steel.
Okay.
So he was in the union.
Yeah. They just opened their foundry again.
I was right in time for Christmas, man.
Yeah, right.
Some happy people over there.
Yeah.
So I got friends over there and a little bit of family too. But my uncle, my friends, my cousins, they all work for the steel mill.
Yeah.
So they're all union folks. So it's not that I'm alien to the union. It's just that my path didn't take me that way.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish it did. There's a lot of advantages.
Yeah, definitely.
So, but all right. So we got to kind of be mindful of the time. What do you think about IP reform? Have you heard that bantered about a little
initiative
bit?
petition. Yeah.
Right to work, all this stuff.
Oh, we're
Do you have an opinion on right to work? You probably don't.
Yeah. Well, I probably have a lot more to say about that than we have time for, but
Give it a shot.
so right to work, that's been a controversial topic over the last couple of years here in Missouri. And 2018, our legislator voted it in.
Yeah.
Our governor signed it.
Through IP, right?
No, that was just them. The legislature,
Oh,
the reps and senators said this is what Missouri wants, and it became law. And so, the referendum process and the IP process are very similar. And we had to go out and get signatures all over the state, get enough of them, put it on the ballot, and then once it got put on the ballot for the people of Missouri to vote on, we won by a 2/3 majority. 66% of people said they don't want this, which is a pretty big margin to win by. With just a vote of the people.
Yeah.
So overwhelmingly, and a lot of the people that were voting were union members, because they wanted to protect what they had. But then you had a lot of non-union members that maybe like yourself, you know about unions, but you weren't directly involved. Also,
You don't know what to think. Yeah.
Right.
But you guys worked hard at that, because I remember I remember going into a library, a public library. I was hanging flyers like we need workers,
Yeah.
And there were people out there with clipboards, and they would explain what they were needing the signature for. So you guys worked really hard at educating the public, people like me.
Yep.
Yeah. So congratulations.
Yeah, we've had to do it twice now. Once in the 1970s, and now once in 2018. So it keeps coming back. So we got to keep protecting the processes that protect it. Right. The initiative petition, the referendum process, like those are key to make sure that the voters, the people of Missouri, get the final say.
Yeah. Life is a struggle, isn't it? You got to keep fighting for what you believe in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we're out of time, but I wanted to give you a little bit of something special to take with you. It's not a gift. I don't have anything physical to give you. I don't have a coffee mug. We're working on that. But I want to announce to the public that you are now an honorary member of the Podcasters Union, Local 0001.
Wow.
I don't know. We have
the first one.
Yeah.
All right.
So congratulations.
Yeah.
We're still working on benefits and things like that. I don't know what we can get you.
Just let me know. I'd be happy to get my pension started.
So you like cigars?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. You're familiar with Santino's?
I am. Yep.
And that's where you're headed after this, right? You're going to go to Santino's?
it's a Friday night. Why not?
Yeah, get some cigars.
Yeah.
Jake, wonderful having you on. Thank you for making the time.
Yeah.
It was really great to talk to you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it.
Yeah, come on again sometime.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, man. What a great episode. That was Jake West. What a humble guy. You can tell he's good at what he does, and I really believe it's because he cares about the people he works with. And I love that about him. Thanks for coming on, Jake. You're going to want to stay tuned for the job of the week. But I also want to talk about next week's episode. It's going to be with Gus Sanchez, and he's with Labor Finders. We're not going to just talk about staffing, though. He's a drummer in a band. How wild is that? We're going to talk about that. We might even hear some samples of his music if the platforms will let us get him on there. The last thing I'd like to mention before you guys go, other than sharing this on your social media, it's really important. Like it and share this. It really helps us grow. I want to talk about News Talk STL. Have you heard of News Talk STL? They're a radio station here in town, and they've got legends on there. People like Vic Porcelli, Jamie Allman, and get this, Larry Connors. If you're in St. Louis, if you lived in St. Louis, you know who Larry Connors is. An absolute legend. Well, they're sponsoring a food drive, and it goes till December 21st. And you can drop, I'll get this right, you can drop non-perishables off at Bartolino's, Chris's Pancake and Dining, Michael's Flooring Outlet, or you can go to the radio station in Maryland Heights. That's what I would do. That'd be kind of fun. You might even bump into Larry Connors. So thanks for watching. Please share this on your social media, and we'll see you next Tuesday at 10.
Hire away with Collins Harlan.